The conference hall aboard the GSS Unity Spire could hold 3,000 delegates. Today, it held 2,999 aliens and 1 human. Lieutenant Commander Maya Chen stood at the back of the chamber, arms crossed, her dress uniform pristine against the chaos of scales, feathers, and chitinous armor that filled the tiered seats. She'd been sent as Earth's representative to the Galactic Security Council's annual fleet review, a ceremonial role, everyone said, a token gesture. Humanity had only joined the galactic community 6 years ago, and their military contribution was laughable compared to the Vrexian hegemony's 1,000-ship armadas or the Korath Empire's planet crackers. She was there to smile, nod, and collect participation certificates. Admiral Thexfor of the Vrexian fleet stood at the central podium, his 4 arms gesturing grandly as he addressed the assembly. His voice boomed through the translator network, rich with contempt. And so we arrive at the, charming addition to our coalition. Thexfor's mandibles clicked in what passed for a sneer among his kind. The Terran Defense Initiative, one aging carrier, 42 fighters that would lose to our training drones, and a crew recruited from a forgotten mudball that only discovered faster-than-light travel because they stumbled onto abandoned Forerunner tech. Scattered laughter rippled through the chamber. The Korath delegation hissed their approval. The crystalline Lemurians chimed in harmony, their version of mockery. Maya's jaw tightened. Her hands remained steady. Thexfor wasn't finished. He pulled up a holographic display. Earth, rotating slowly, its blue oceans and green continents, achingly familiar. This world contributed exactly 0 tactical innovations to our last campaign, 0 strategic victories. They exist in our alliance because we tolerate charity cases. He leaned forward, his multifaceted eyes glittering. Perhaps we should rename the Security Council to the Security Council and Daycare. The laughter grew louder. A Korath admiral pounded his fist against his console in approval. Even some of the more diplomatic species, the avian creche, the aquatic bentherians, offered polite chirps of amusement. Maya's expression didn't change. She simply reached up and touched the small silver pin on her collar. Earth's flag, no bigger than her thumbnail. A gift from her daughter. Emma had drawn it herself in crayon, blue and green swirls, with the words "Mommy protects everyone" underneath. Thexfor gestured dismissively at the hologram. I propose we reduce Terra's fleet allocation by 70%. Redirect those resources to species with actual military capacity. All in favor? Motion to respond. Maya's voice cut through the chamber like a blade through silk. The laughter stopped. 2,999 heads turned. Thexfor's translator made a sound like grinding metal. Irritation. The floor recognizes Lieutenant Commander Chen, though I fail to see what a junior officer from a backwater... You called my planet a mudball. Maya started walking down the center aisle, her boots clicking against the polished deck. Every eye tracked her movement. She reached the podium level. Thexfor loomed over her. He was 9 feet of segmented armor and evolutionary fury. She barely came up to his thorax. Maya smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. I accept your assessment, Admiral. Humanity is small, weak, cosmically insignificant. She turned to address the full chamber. We've been in space for less than a decade. Our weapons are primitive. Our ships are retrofitted colony vessels, held together with spite and duct tape. She paused. But we have one thing you don't. And what is that? Thexfor's mandibles spread in what passed for amusement. Delusion. Experience. The word hung in the air like a neutron bomb. Maya gestured to the massive view screen behind the podium. Admiral, may I borrow your display? Thexfor waved one of his forearms, dismissively. By all means, entertain us. Maya pulled a small data chip from her pocket. Human tech, not compatible with galactic systems. She didn't plug it in. Instead, she simply held it up. This contains something none of you have ever needed. A complete record of Earth's military history. 30,000 years of uninterrupted warfare. 5,000 distinct languages, created specifically to coordinate killing each other more efficiently. 268 genocides. 41 nuclear exchanges before we banned atomic weapons on our own soil. The chamber was silent now. Even the translator seemed to hesitate. We didn't discover faster-than-light travel because we were explorers, Admiral. We discovered it because we were terrified, because we'd spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of wiping out our own species, and we finally succeeded in not doing it. Barely. And we looked up at the stars and realized that if there was anything out there, we needed to meet them before they met us. She tossed the data chip onto the podium. It clattered against the smooth surface.
You think we're weak because we only brought one carrier to your Grand Fleet review. You think we're insignificant because we don't have 1,000 ships. Maya leaned forward, her voice dropping to something cold and surgical. We only brought one ship, Admiral, because one ship crewed by humans is a war crime waiting to happen, and you just insulted the only species in this entire goddamn galaxy that learned to fly by building rockets to deliver extinction-level weapons to our own children. Thexfor's mandibles twitched, uncertainty. You threaten this council? I don't threaten, Admiral. I inform. Maya straightened. You want to reduce Earth's fleet allocation? Fine. Vote. But understand this. The moment you do, humanity will consider itself released from the Mutual Defense Pact, and when the Korath come knocking at your Custelline towers and your mountain fortresses and your underwater kingdoms, don't call us, because we'll be very, very busy. Busy with what? A Korath admiral stood, his scales rippling with challenge. Maya smiled wider. It was the kind of smile that made survival instincts scream. Busy turning this sector into a graveyard for anyone stupid enough to pick a fight with the species that split the atom before we figured out antibiotics. She turned to leave. The silence followed her like a predator. Then Thexfor made his final mistake. He laughed, a deep, resonant sound that echoed through the translators as pure condescension. You are delusional, Lieutenant Commander. You think your pathetic display of historical violence impresses this council? We have conquered solar systems. We have reduced rebellions to ash. We have held this galaxy together for... Maya stopped walking. She didn't turn around. Computer, she said quietly. Authorization Chen Delta 7 Tango. Execute Protocol Fenrir. Every screen in the chamber flickered. Thexfor's laughter died in his throat.
The massive holographic display behind the podium exploded with data. Targeting solutions, weapons locks, ship registrations. Every single vessel in the combined fleet appeared on the screen, rendered in perfect tactical detail. Shields, weapon systems, crew complements, reactor signatures. All of them outlined in red. All of them locked. Maya turned slowly. Her expression was calm, professional, the face of someone who'd done this before. 47 seconds, Admiral. That's how long it took my ship's AI, built by a species too primitive for your council, to quietly infiltrate every networked system in this fleet, map every vulnerability, and prepare firing solutions that would reduce your entire armada to expanding gas clouds. The chamber erupted in chaos. Alarms began shrieking across the station. Admirals shouted into their communicators. Security forces rushed toward Maya, weapons raised. She raised both hands, empty. Don't worry, I'm not here to start a war. I'm here to remind you what humanity is. We're the species that learned to smile while planning extinction-level events. We're the species that invented mutually assured destruction and called it peace. She looked directly at Thexfor. We're the species you just called a charity case. This is an act of war. The Korath admiral was on his feet, scales bristling with fury. You have violated every treaty, I haven't fired a single shot. Maya's voice cut through the din like a laser through flesh. I've simply demonstrated capability. You wanted to know what Earth contributes to this alliance. Situational awareness. While you were all laughing at the mudball species, we were doing what we do best, figuring out how to kill everyone in the room if they try to kill us first. She gestured to the screens. Your shields are keyed to Forerunner frequencies. Predictable. Your weapon systems require charging cycles that leave 0.3-second windows. Exploitable. Your reactor cores are shielded against energy weapons, but catastrophically vulnerable to kinetic penetrators traveling at 0.97 light speed. She smiled again. It was worse than the first one. Did I mention humans invented railguns before we joined your little club? Thexfor stared at the screens, at the impossible speed of the infiltration, at the surgical precision of the targeting data. This is not possible. Our security was designed by species who've never had to fight themselves. Maya's voice was gentle now, almost pitying. You've been fighting external threats for so long, you forgot what it's like to face an enemy that thinks like you, that predicts your every move because they've spent millennia predicting their own. She tapped her temple. We know how you think, Admiral. We know how everyone thinks because we had to learn to outthink ourselves or die. The security forces had surrounded her now, weapons trained on her head, her chest, her legs. 20 different species, 40 different weapons. She didn't flinch. "Go ahead," she said softly. "Shoot me. See what happens when the targeting lock goes active instead of passive. See how long your precious Armada lasts when every ship starts firing on the one next to it because my AI interpreted hostile action against a human officer as a trigger condition." No one fired. Maya lowered her hand slowly. "I will now walk out of this chamber. I will return to my ship, and I will delete every trace of this infiltration from your systems, because unlike you, I actually believe in this alliance. I believe in defending the weak. I believe in standing together against the things that want to end us." She looked at each delegate in turn. "But if you ever insult Earth, if you ever call my home a mudball, if you ever forget that humanity earned its place in this galaxy by surviving itself—" She let the sentence hang. Then she smiled one more time, warm, genuine, the smile of someone who just made a new friend at the cost of terrifying them forever. "Well, then I'll remind you." Gently. Maya Chen walked out of the chamber. 2,999 beings watched her go. Not one of them moved. Not one of them breathed. 47 seconds later, every red targeting lock on every screen vanished. In the silence that followed, Admiral Thexfor slowly sat down. His 4 hands were shaking. A Quaresh diplomat leaned over to her Bentharian colleague. "What just happened?" The Bentharian's translator made a sound like water over stones. Horror, awe, and deep, deep respect. "We just learned why humans smile before they fight, because they've already won."
The debriefing lasted 6 hours. Maya sat in a detention cell aboard the Unity Spire while 17 different admirals, security chiefs, and legal analysts tried to figure out whether to court-martial her, execute her, or promote her. She spent the time reading messages from Emma. Her daughter had started school on Ganymede Station last month. Today, she'd learned about nebulae. "Mommy, did you know space has clouds made of diamonds? Can you bring me one?" Maya smiled and typed back, "I'll see what I can do, sweetheart. Mommy might be in a little trouble, but it's nothing we can't handle." The cell door opened. She expected security. Instead, Ambassador Vireth of the Lemurian Collective stepped through, a being of living crystal, light refracting through her faceted body in patterns that hurt human eyes to track. "Lieutenant Commander Chen," Vireth's voice resonated like a struck bell. "I am here to inform you that all charges have been dismissed." Maya blinked. "Excuse me? You have been cleared of any wrongdoing. In fact, the Council has voted unanimously, an unprecedented event, to grant Earth full strategic partnership status. Admiral Thexfor has resigned his position. The Vrexian hegemony has issued a formal apology to Terra and has pledged 12 dreadnoughts to Earth's direct command." Maya stood slowly. "I don't understand. I hacked the entire fleet. I threatened—" "You did not threaten." Vireth's crystalline form pulsed with something that might have been amusement. "You educated. After you left, our security analysts attempted to trace your infiltration vector. Do you know what they found? No? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Your AI covered its tracks so perfectly that our best experts could not determine how it entered our systems, let alone how it mapped every ship in 47 seconds. Vireth stepped closer. Then we did something we should have done the moment your species joined the Alliance. We reviewed Earth's military history." Maya's stomach tightened. "We studied your wars, your tactics, your innovations." The ambassador's light dimmed. "We learned about trench warfare, blitzkrieg, mutually assured destruction, cyber warfare, drone strikes, nuclear submarines, stealth technology, biological weapons, chemical weapons, weapons specifically designed to cause maximum psychological trauma." Her voice grew quieter. "We learned that your species has been practicing total war for longer than most civilizations in this galaxy have had written language. We're not proud of it," Maya said softly. "You should be," Vireth's light flared. "Not proud of the killing, proud that you survived. Proud that you looked at 10,000 years of self-inflicted horror and chose peace, chose to look outward instead of inward, chose to offer your expertise to protect others." The ambassador extended a crystalline hand. "You could have used that demonstration to seize power, to blackmail the Council, to establish human dominance through fear. Instead, you deleted the infiltration and asked only for respect." Maya took the offered hand. It was warm, despite being crystal. "The Council wants you to stay, Lieutenant Commander, not as a token representative, as the new Director of Integrated Defense Strategy." Vireth's light pulsed. "Earth will lead the Coalition's Tactical Planning Division. Every species will contribute their strengths: Vrexian shields, Korath weaponry, Lemurian computing, Bentharian stealth. But human tactical doctrine will be the foundation." "Why?" Maya asked. "Why trust us with that much power?"
Because you already had that much power, Lieutenant Commander. You could have destroyed us all. You chose not to. Virith released her hand. That is leadership. That is wisdom. That is exactly what this galaxy needs. Maya thought of Emma's message, of diamond clouds and homework and normal childhood things. She thought of Earth, spinning in the void, fragile and blue and home. She thought of every human who'd fought and died to drag their species from the mud to the stars. I accept, she said, on one condition. Name it. Every species in the Alliance gets full access to human military history. Every war, every mistake, every innovation, every horror. Maya's voice was steel. If we're going to lead your defense, you're going to understand exactly what kind of species you're trusting. No secrets, no sanitized versions. Full transparency. Virith was silent for a long moment. Then her light flared bright enough to make Maya squint. Agreed. The Council will approve it by morning. She turned to leave, then paused. There is one more thing. Admiral Thexfor wishes to speak with you, privately. Is that safe? For him, probably not. Virith's crystalline form chimed. Laughter. For you, I believe you demonstrated that safety is subjective. The observation deck overlooked the massive fleet staging area. Hundreds of ships representing dozens of species, all powered down for the night cycle. Thexfor stood at the viewport, his forearms clasped behind his back. He didn't turn when Maya entered. I have been a warrior for 73 years, he said quietly. I have commanded fleets, sieged planets. I was decorated by 3 different empires for tactical brilliance. His mandibles clicked softly. I did not see you coming, Lieutenant Commander. I did not even imagine you were possible. Maya stood beside him. You weren't supposed to. That was the point. How? Thexfor's voice was raw. How did your AI infiltrate every system? We had Forerunner-grade security, quantum encryption, multi-layered firewalls. It should have taken days, weeks to even probe our defenses. It would have, for a normal AI. Then what? We didn't use a normal AI, Admiral. We used one designed by a species that spent 200 years afraid of artificial intelligence because we kept building machines that tried to kill us. She smiled faintly. Human AI is paranoid by design. It assumes everything is hostile. It plans for worst-case scenarios. It doesn't probe defenses. It imagines itself as the defender and identifies where it would put weaknesses. Thexfor turned to stare at her. Your AI hacked our systems by thinking like us? Worse, it hacked your systems by thinking like you while simultaneously thinking like the humans who built it. Double paranoia, triple checking. It mapped every possible attack vector, then eliminated the ones that would get it copped, then executed the remainder in parallel. Maya shrugged. 47 seconds sounds fast. For our AI, it was an eternity. It was bored by second 30. The Admiral's mandibles trembled. You truly are monsters. Yes, Maya's voice was gentle. We are, but we're your monsters now, Admiral, and that means anyone who comes for you has to go through us first. Thexfor was silent for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice carried something Maya hadn't expected. Hope. The Korath are planning an offensive. 3 sectors away. They believe we are weak, disorganized. He looked at her. Show me how to prove them wrong. Maya pulled in a tactical display. How much time do we have? 6 weeks, maybe 7. Plenty. She began marking points on the star map. Here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to make them think we are weaker than we are. Then we're going to make them commit to a fight they can't win. Then, she smiled, the good smile, the one that made allies feel safe and enemies feel doomed. Then we're going to teach them what happens when you threaten worlds protected by the species that invented scorched Earth. Thexfor watched her work, watched her hands fly over the controls, sketching out a battle plan that was simultaneously brilliant, brutal, and absolutely terrifying. Lieutenant Commander. Yes, Admiral. I am sorry for what I said about Earth, about your people. Maya paused. She thought about all the right responses, the diplomatic ones, the ones that would smooth over the relationship and move forward professionally. Instead, she said, thank you. That means something. Thexfor's mandibles spread and what she had learned was a smile. Will you teach me about human warfare? I want to understand. It's not pretty, Admiral. It's going to change how you see conflict, how you see strategy, how you see yourself. Good. Thexfor straightened to his full height. I have been comfortable for too long. Comfort kills warriors. I would rather be uncomfortable and alive. Maya extended her hand. After a moment, Thexfor reached out with one of his 4 and took it. His grip was careful, mindful of his strength against her fragile human bones. Welcome to Earth's philosophy of war, Admiral. Rule 1, the goal isn't to win. The goal is to make the enemy regret starting the fight in the first place. And Rule 2, Maya's smile turned sharp. There is no Rule 2. Rule 1 covers everything.
The Korath Empire made its move exactly 43 days later. 300 warships, led by War Master Krell and Self, dropped out of FTL in the Drazen sector, a lightly defended junction of trade routes connecting 7 allied systems. Their strategy was textbook: overwhelming force, rapid subjugation, and use the captured territory to splinter the alliance. They expected panic, disorganized retreat, maybe a token defense before the Allies abandoned Drazen to buy time for their core worlds. Instead, they found Lieutenant Commander Maya Chen waiting for them with 17 ships. 17, against 300. War Master Krell's flagship, the Sovereign Fang, dominated the tactical display. He was a creature of pure predatory evolution, scales like obsidian, eyes that processed 7 spectrums simultaneously, claws that could rend hull plating. He'd conquered 42 systems personally. He'd never retreated from any fight. He stared at the 17 ships arranged in loose formation around Drazen Station and laughed. It was a sound like grinding stone, harsh, confident, dismissive. This is their defense? 17 ships? He turned to his tactical officer. Identify them. Scanning, War Master. Flagship is Terran Registry, TDS Fenrir. 1 carrier-class vessel, 16 support craft, mixed alliance composition, Vrexian, Lumerian, Bentharian escorts. Krell's eyes narrowed. Terran, the mudball species, the ones who threatened the Council. Yes, War Master. Intelligence suggests the human commander is, I don't care who commands it. 300 against 17. Krell gestured dismissively. Offer them 1 chance to surrender. When they refuse, destroy them. Leave debris scattered enough that the Alliance finds pieces for the next decade. I want them to see what happens when children play at war. The communications officer sent the surrender demand. The response came back 90 seconds later. It was audio only. A woman's voice, calm and professional. War Master Krell, this is Lieutenant Commander Maya Chen of the Terran Defense Initiative. Your surrender demand is acknowledged and denied. You have violated Allied space. You have 45 seconds to withdraw all ships beyond the sector boundary, or we will interpret your presence as an act of war. Krell's laughter boomed through the bridge. They give us an ultimatum? This human female believes 17 ships can— War Master, the tactical officer's voice was strained. Our sensors are detecting unusual activity. The Terran ship is charging weapons, but the energy signature doesn't match any known classification. Exotic weapon? Krell leaned forward. Interesting. It won't save them. Prepare our main batteries. Target the Terran carrier first. I want to see this human watch her ship die before we board her. The tactical display updated. The 17 Allied ships began moving, not retreating, not spreading out. They were contracting, forming a tight defensive sphere around the Fenrir. They're clustering. Krell's second officer, a female Korath named Vex, studied the formation. That makes no tactical sense. They're concentrating our target profile. They're terrified, Krell said. They're huddling together like prey animals. Pathetic. He raised one clawed hand. All ships, weapons free. Destroy them, now. 300 warships opened fire simultaneously. The void lit up with enough destructive energy to vaporize a moon. Plasma lances, kinetic rounds, gravity wells, entropic beams, the full arsenal of the Korath military, unleashed in a single overwhelming salvo. The Alliance ship's shields lit up like dying stars. One Vrexian escort exploded immediately. 2 Lumerian frigates lost power and went dark. The formation was collapsing. Krell watched with satisfaction. 30 seconds, and they'll— The Fenrir fired. It wasn't plasma. It wasn't kinetic. It wasn't any weapon in the known galactic arsenal. It was a pulse, a wave of invisible force that propagated outward at fractional light speed, passing through shields like they were tissue paper, ignoring armor like it was decorative paint. Every Korath ship in a 20-kilometer radius simply stopped. Engines died, weapons went cold, life support stuttered. Emergency lighting flickered on across 300 Korath ships, bathing their bridges in red emergency glow. Krell stared at his dead console. What did they... Maya's voice came through on emergency channels, the only system still functioning across the entire Korath fleet. War Master Krell, this is Lieutenant Commander Maya Chen of the Terran Defense Initiative. That was an EMP burst, War Master, electromagnetic pulse. Earth invented it in 1960, about 100 years before we joined your alliance. We've had a long time to refine it. On the tactical display, powered by the Fenrir's systems and broadcast to every dead Korath ship, the 17 Allied vessels began to move. They spread out, surrounding the paralyzed fleet like sharks circling prey. Your ships are now dead in space, War Master. No engines, no weapons, no shields. Your crews are alive, but you're floating debris. We could destroy you all in the next 60 seconds, and there's nothing you could do to stop us. Krell's claws dug into his console hard enough to leave gouges. You dare? I dare to give you the same chance you gave us, War Master. Surrender, withdraw, or find out what else humanity invented before we left our mudball. A pause. I'll give you a hint. We split the atom in 1945. The EMP was the opening act. Krell looked at his bridge crew, at the emergency lighting, at the dead systems, at 300 ships, pride of the Korath Armada, reduced to floating scrap by a single shot from a species he'd dismissed as primitive. He'd made a mistake. He saw it now. Not in underestimating their weapons, in underestimating their will. Tactical officer, Krell said slowly, can we restore systems? Negative, War Master. The primary systems were damaged at the circuit level. Repairs will take hours, maybe days. And if they fire again? If they fire anything conventional, we have no defense. Our shields are down. Our armor is intact, but... The officer's voice trailed off. But armor means nothing when you can't maneuver or return fire. Krell's eyes tracked the 17 ships circling his fleet. They weren't firing. They were waiting. Patient. Professional. Terrifying. Open a channel, Krell said finally, to the human. Maya's face appeared on the view screen, the only working display on the bridge. She was young. Human young, which meant she could live another century easily. She had dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun, brown eyes that held no anger, no gloating, just calm, absolute certainty. I'm listening, War Master. Krell forced himself to sit straighter. You have proven your point, Commander. Your weapon is effective. But surely you understand that this is only one battle. The Korath Empire
Has 47 core worlds, 612 colony systems, and a standing military of 8 million ships. Maya's voice was flat. I know, War Master. I've read your file. I've read every file on every Korath offensive for the last 2 centuries. I know your tactics, your strategies, your favorite attack patterns. I know you prefer planetary bombardment to invasion because ground combat is expensive. I know you rotate your fleets every 16 months to prevent mutiny. I know your supply lines run through the current nebula because it's defensible. She leaned forward. I know everything about you, War Master, because studying enemies is what humans do. It's what we've always done, and now we're doing it for the Alliance. Krell felt something he hadn't experienced in 40 years of warfare. Genuine fear. What do you want? I want you to withdraw. I want you to report to your superiors that the Alliance is no longer a target. I want you to spread the word through your entire empire that humans, the mudball species, are now the ones planning Allied defense. Maya's expression softened slightly. And I want you to remember that we gave you a chance to leave, because that's the difference between us, War Master. You destroy because you can.
We destroy because we have to, and we really, really don't want to have to." Silence hung in the void. 300 ships dead and drifting, 17 ships circling like patient executioners. "If I refuse?" Krell had to ask, had to know. "Then I activate Protocol Jericho, and every reactor on every ship in your fleet goes critical simultaneously. 300 fusion detonations, each equivalent to a small star going supernova. The explosion will be visible from your homeworld." She paused. "Your crews will have 30 seconds to evacuate in escape pods. We'll even provide coordinates to a safe pickup zone. Because we're not monsters, War Master. We're just very, very good at pretending to be when someone threatens our friends." Krell looked at his crew, at Vex, his second, whose scales had paled to the color of ash, at his tactical officer, whose claws were trembling, at the warriors who'd followed him across a dozen campaigns, now sitting in the dark, waiting for their leader to decide if they lived or died. He thought about his own daughter, hatched 3 years ago, still learning to fly in the thermal vents of Cora Prime. He thought about honor, about pride, about legacy. Then he thought about survival. "Stand down," Krell said quietly. "All ships, stand down. Prepare for emergency reactor shutdowns and await recovery." He looked at Maya. "We withdraw, Commander. You have your victory." "This isn't victory, War Master. This is education." Maya's voice carried something unexpected. Sympathy. "You came here expecting easy conquest. You found something that scared you. That's good. Fear keeps us alive. Remember this feeling. Remember that humans didn't build weapons to conquer. We built them to survive. And now we're using them to help others survive too." She nodded once. "Your systems will come back online in approximately 6 hours. We'll be gone by then. But War Master, if you come back, if any Korath fleet enters Allied space again without an invitation, I won't give you 45 seconds next time. I won't give you any time at all." The channel closed. Krell sat in the emergency lighting, surrounded by his paralyzed fleet, and felt something crack inside his chest. Not his honor, not his pride, his certainty, the absolute conviction that the Korath were apex predators, that nothing in the galaxy could challenge their supremacy. Vex spoke softly. "Orders, War Master?" "We wait, we repair, we leave." Krell's voice was hollow. "And we tell the Council of Claws that we found something in the dark, something that learned to fight by fighting itself for 10,000 years, something that thinks 3 moves ahead because it had to or die." "What did we find, War Master?" Krell watched the 17 ships on his dead display, watched them patrol, patient and professional, while his mighty armada floated helpless. "We found the galaxy's newest apex predator, and we're very lucky it decided we were worth educating instead of exterminating."
3 weeks after the Drazen incident, Maya received a priority transmission marked with clearance codes she'd never seen before. The message was simple: report to Sanctuary Station immediately. Bring no one, tell no one. Sanctuary was a myth, a legend whispered among Alliance intelligence officers, a black site where the Council handled problems too sensitive for public knowledge. The fact that it was real and that she'd been summoned there made Maya's hands shake as she piloted a shuttle through coordinates that shouldn't have existed. The station materialized from nothing, stealth fields dropping just long enough for her to dock. Inside, the corridors were empty, silent. Her footsteps echoed on deck plating that had never seen maintenance crews or civilian traffic. Ambassador Virith waited in what might have been a conference room, if conference rooms were designed to prevent screaming from escaping. The crystalline being's light was dimmed almost to nothing. Fear, Maya had learned. Lumerian fear. "Thank you for coming, Lieutenant Commander. I apologize for the secrecy, but what I'm about to show you cannot leave this station." "What's going on?" Virith touched a control. A holographic display materialized. Star charts, fleet movements, intelligence reports.
4 months ago, we detected unusual quantum signatures in the outer veil. We sent a science team to investigate. They found something that changes everything. The display shifted. Maya felt her breath catch. It was a ship, but not like any ship she'd ever seen. It was organic, grown, not built. Kilometers of biomechanical horror that pulsed with its own light. And it wasn't alone. The long-range scans showed dozens of them, hundreds, maybe thousands, clustered around a dead star like parasites feeding on a corpse. What am I looking at? The Devourers. Virith's light flickered. They're older than our civilizations, older than the Forerunners. They sleep in deep space, feeding on stellar radiation, until they detect sufficient technological activity. Then they wake up, and they consume everything. Maya studied the readings. The ships, if they could be called ships, defied every principle of physics she understood. How long do we have? Our best estimates suggest they'll reach the first populated systems in 6 to 8 weeks. Once they do, Virith pulled up simulations. Planets stripped to bedrock in hours. Entire fleets consumed and converted to more devourer mass. They don't conquer, Lieutenant Commander. They eradicate. They leave nothing behind except void. Why tell me? Because the Council is paralyzed. Half want to evacuate the entire alliance to deep space. Half want to marshal every ship we have for a final defense. They're arguing while the Devourers get closer. Virith's light flared bright enough to hurt. But Admiral Fexvor suggested something else. He said if anyone could find a way to kill something unkillable, it would be the species that spent 10,000 years perfecting extinction. Maya stared at the display, at the cosmic horror swimming through the dark, at the threat that made the Korath look like children throwing rocks. Her hands stopped shaking. Show me everything, every scan, every analysis, every autopsy of devourer tissue samples that cost entire research stations to acquire. She read for 16 hours straight, not sleeping, barely eating, her mind processing information at a pace that would have burned out most beings. Finally, she looked up. I need access to Earth's military archive. Full access. Historical, contemporary, theoretical. Everything. You're looking for a weapon? I'm looking for a precedent. The Forerunners tried to fight the Devourers like they were an enemy, like a military problem. Maya pulled up a tactical display. But they're not an enemy. They're an invasive species, and humanity's been dealing with invasive species since we figured out agriculture. Virith's light pulsed uncertainty. I don't understand. When humans encounter something that threatens our ecosystem, we don't just fight it, we study it, we find its weaknesses, its dependencies, its life cycle. Maya began marking points on the star chart. These things feed on stellar radiation. They cluster around dead stars because that's where the energy concentration is highest without getting torn apart by active fusion. They're not invincible, they're specialized, perfectly adapted to their environment. Which means we change their environment. Maya's smile was back, the terrifying one. The plan came together over 72 hours of frantic work. Maya brought in specialists from every allied species, Lumerian quantum physicists, Vrexian stellar engineers, Bentharian biologists, and a dozen human scientists who'd been working on theoretical projects that most species considered insane. The briefing to the full council took 4 hours. Maya stood at the podium where Thexforan once mocked humanity and presented a plan so audacious that half the delegates thought she was joking. You want to detonate a star, deliberately. Not detonate, ignite. Maya pulled up simulations. The Devourers are clustering around a white dwarf in the veil, a dead star that's just compact hydrogen and helium with no fusion. Except this one will. We turn their feeding ground into a bomb. And if it doesn't work, a Korath delegate, not Krell, but someone who'd clearly heard the story, spoke up. If they survive, then we have a backup plan. Maya pulled up schematics for a weapon that made the EMP look like a firecracker. Humans call it a scorched earth protocol. If we can't save something, we make sure the enemy can't have it either. The room went silent.
Vexfor stood. Lieutenant Commander, are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting we mine every inhabited system between here and the Veil, with weapons designed to turn planets into sterile rocks. If the Devourers somehow survive the Nova and continue advancing, they'll find nothing to consume. No technology, no biological matter, just dead worlds. Maya's voice didn't waver. We let them starve. That's genocide, someone whispered. That's survival. Maya looked at each delegate in turn. The Forerunners ran. They abandoned their worlds and hoped the Devourers would eventually go dormant again. We're not running. We're drawing a line and saying this far, no further, even if it costs us everything. Vireth's light pulsed. And if we succeed, if the Nova works, then we've proven that the Devourers aren't unstoppable, that they're just another problem that needs the right solution, and humanity, the mudball species, will have saved the galaxy using weapons we invented before we could leave our own solar system. The vote took 6 hours. It passed by a single vote. Maya spent the next 3 months coordinating the largest military operation in galactic history. Every species contributed. Vrexian containment fields to compress the hydrogen, Lemurian quantum triggers to achieve perfect synchronization, Bentharian stealth ships to deliver the payload without alerting the Devourers, and human tactical oversight to ensure that if something went wrong, they had 17 backup plans. The device they built was beautiful in its horror, a stellar ignition bomb. 1 part stellar engineering, 1 part weapons technology, and 1 part desperate prayer that the math was correct. Maya commanded the operation from the Fenrir, surrounded by a coalition fleet of 600 ships, everyone who'd volunteered to either witness humanity's greatest triumph or cover the retreat if it became humanity's worst failure. The device was delivered by a single Bentharian corvette that ghosted through the Devourer swarm, placed the payload in the exact center of the white dwarf's corona, and retreated at maximum velocity. Maya watched the countdown. All ships, emergency FTL on my mark. If this works, we'll see the flash before the shockwave hits. If it doesn't work, she smiled at her crew. It's been an honor. 10 seconds. 5. 1. The white dwarf didn't explode. It was reborn. Fusion ignited in a cascade reaction that turned a dead star into a newborn sun in 0.3 seconds. The energy release was visible across 12 sectors, a new star blazing to life where only darkness had been. And in that light, the Devourers burned. The organic ships had evolved to survive radiation, but they'd evolved for the gentle decay of dying stars, not the apocalyptic fury of stellar ignition. The organic mechanical horror that had consumed civilizations for millions of years simply dissolved, vaporized, erased from existence by a star humanity had taught to live again. The sensor readings came back 90 seconds later. Every Devourer signature, gone, not scattered, not damaged, extinct. The Fenrir's bridge erupted in cheers. Species that never touched celebrated together. Vrexians hugging Lemurians, Bentharians spraying water in their version of joy, humans crying and laughing and holding each other. Maya stood at her command station, watching the new star burn, and thought of Emma, of her daughter who would grow up in a galaxy where monsters could be killed, where impossible problems had solutions, where humanity's greatest strength, the ability to imagine destruction and choose creation instead, had saved everyone. Commander, Vexfor's voice came through on priority channel. On behalf of the Council, on behalf of every species in the Alliance, thank you. Maya widened her eyes. We're just getting started, Admiral.
3 months after the ignition event, as the Galactic News Networks called it, Maya returned to Earth for the first time in 2 years. The shuttle descended through blue skies and white clouds that looked impossibly fragile after months staring at the void. Ganymede Station had contacted her a week ago. Emma's school was doing a presentation on the Devourers, and Emma had told her teacher that her mom was the lady who turned on a sun. The school auditorium was packed.
500 human kids, ages 6 to 12, and their families. Maya sat in the back row, trying to be inconspicuous in her uniform. It didn't work. The moment Emma spotted her, the little girl's face lit up like the star they'd ignited. The presentation was adorable in the way only elementary school projects could be. Construction paper diagrams of the Devourers, crayon drawings of spaceships, a papier-mâché sun that Emma had apparently spent weeks building with her art teacher. When Emma's turn came to present, she walked to the front with all the confidence of someone who didn't understand fear yet. My mom is Lieutenant Commander Maya Chen. She works in space, protecting people. Last year, some bad things called Devourers tried to hurt everyone, so my mom and her friends turned on a star to stop them. She held up her papier-mâché sun. Stars are really hot, like millions of degrees. The Devourers didn't like hot things, so they went away. My mom says sometimes the best way to fight is to change the rules. She also says that humans are really good at that because we've been doing it forever. A hand went up. A Martian kid named Paulo. Did your mom blow up the bad things? No, Emma said seriously. She made them go away by making a place they couldn't live anymore. That's different. Blowing things up is easy. Making sure they can't come back is hard. Maya felt tears threatening again. Her daughter understood, really understood. Not the tactics or the technology, but the philosophy, the reason humanity had survived itself and could now protect others. After the presentation, Emma ran to her. Maya swept her daughter into a hug that lasted long enough to make Emma squirm. "Mom, you're squishing me." "I'm allowed to squish you. I'm your mom." Maya set her down. "Your presentation was perfect, sweetheart. That sun you made is amazing. I made it for you, to remember." Emma pulled out a small data pad, handed out by the school as part of their STEM program. "Can you tell me the real story, what it was like?"
Maya hesitated. She could tell the sanitized version, the one designed for children, the one that left out the parts about how she'd spent 3 months with a backup plan that would have required abandoning entire systems, the one that didn't mention the nightmares she still had about what would have happened if they'd been wrong. But Emma was looking at her with those bright, trusting eyes, and Maya remembered what Fereth had said about transparency, about not hiding what humanity was. "Okay," she said softly, "but first, let's get some ice cream. The real story is long." They sat in a park overlooking Earth's Pacific Ocean. Emma demolished a triple-scoop chocolate cone while Maya nursed coffee and tried to figure out how to explain cosmic horror to a 9-year-old. "The Devourers were like a disease," she started. "They didn't hate us. They didn't even know we existed as people. We were just food to them, resources, and that made them more dangerous than any enemy. Because you can negotiate with an enemy, you can't negotiate with something that doesn't recognize you as alive." Emma swallowed a massive bite of ice cream. "So you made the star hop to kill them. To kill the environment they needed to survive. It's like," Maya searched for an analogy. "You know how we have to wear spacesuits outside the station because humans can't breathe in space? Yeah. The Devourers were the same. They needed a specific kind of environment. Cold, radiation from dying stars. We took away their environment. We changed the rules." Maya looked out at the ocean. But the scary part wasn't fighting them. It was knowing that if we failed, we had a backup plan that would have meant destroying our own worlds to stop them from spreading. Emma's eyes went wide. "You were going to blow up planets?" "Not blow up. Sterilize. Make them empty, so the Devourers couldn't feed." Maya met her daughter's gaze. "That's what your teacher meant when she said humans are good at changing rules. We've spent thousands of years learning that sometimes survival means doing terrible things. But we always try, to find a better way first." "Did you find a better way?" "Yes. We ignited the star, and it worked. And every species in the Alliance is alive because of it." Maya touched the flag pen on her collar. "But Emma, I need you to understand something. We got lucky. The plan worked. But if it hadn't, I would have given the order to execute the backup plan, to sacrifice systems to save the rest. That's what command means. That's what your mom does." Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Would you have warned people so they could leave?" "Yes." "Then it's okay, because you